Hi there, it's Ivan here. I'm really excited about the interview I have for you today. But before we go on to that, I feel I had better point out something. I had hoped that we might be able to get a video link up with the guests we have for you. And when you see just who we've got, I think you're going to be just as excited as I am. But due to technical problems, subsequently discovered to be pilot error on my part, that didn't happen. So we have sound only from our guest. That does not detract though in any way from the content he packed into our 20 minutes together. So why don't you just pause the video now, go grab a coffee and get right back here and listen to what he has to say. Hi, it's Ivan here, and I'm really delighted and privileged to have with us on the line today, all the way from Beverly Hills, Mr. Chris Farrell. Now, although Chris only started working online in 2008, he has been voted as providing the #1 internet marketing coaching program in 2009, 2010 and 2011. Now that's some record, Chris, and thank you so much for finding time in your schedule to talk to me and to our members.
Ivan, may I say I'm absolutely thrilled to be invited here. It's a pleasure to spend time with you, and we've actually, you and I, we've met a few times as well. So when you asked me to jump on this call, it was absolutely a no-brainer. So it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm delighted to spend some time with you and your customers and your members as well.
Well, that's very sweet indeed of you to say so. Now, our purpose is to help people make changes in their lives, so they can start to live the life they were supposed to. You clearly made huge changes back in 2008. What prompted you, and how did you go about it?
Well, it's very nice of you to ask, Ivan. Yes, I certainly did do that, and it was scary at times. And I remember it clearly. I've always admired people that stepped out of their comfort zones. I just always have. I've done it a few times now in my life, and it is scary, but man alive, doesn't it make you feel alive when you actually do this?
Absolutely.
Because we're only here once. You know, life isn't a dress rehearsal. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's absolutely true. We want to make every moment count. But the thing is that I've found is that every level of success, whether that's financial or personal or business or relationships or whatever, everything starts with kind of what's up here, and I'm pointing to my head here, starts with our correct mindset. Because, and I know you and I, Ivan, we've kind of, when we've had a few drinks, we've sort of spoken about this, but it really is, it's impossible for any of us ever to talk about any level of success without first addressing this mindset up here. Now, I see often people say to me something like, well, let me just make a little bit of money first, then I'll start thinking, you know, correctly. But it sadly doesn't work like that, and the link between mindset and success is simply undeniable. Yet changing our mindset can actually be one of the most difficult things ever. And the reason for this
scary things, I would say.
Yeah, totally scary as well. And the reason is most people think they have the correct mindset at the very beginning. They just think they do. One thing I've only really probably realized this over the past 4 or 5 years or so is that everybody has struggles, everybody has problems, everybody has obstacles in their life. You know, I have my own levels of problems and struggles. Everybody does. Successful people don't have fewer problems, but what they do have is a different mindset when it comes to their problems. And I've realized that we cannot often control what happens to us. We simply can't. That is what is known as life. But what we can control is how we react and we respond to these problems. And this is kind of, I think, why I've managed to do quite well in a relatively short amount of time, because I kind of appreciate this. I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I actually react to it. We can choose how we think. When our computer crashes, we can choose our response. What's our response going to be? Are we going to swear? Are we going to blame something? Are we going to shout at our partner because they distracted us when we should have? No, we can control our response, and those that are super successful understand that. Jim Rohn said it best: if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And since I sort of embraced that, do you know what? I didn't, and still don't, I don't get scared. I don't mean that to sound arrogant. When I have to learn new things, I'm like, bring it on. You know what? So I don't know when I started in 2008 how to make money online. Bring it on. I know I can learn how to do it. I'm not scared. And once we start thinking like that, and I've realized that all successful people think like that, as I say, they don't have fewer problems. What they have is a different mindset. They cannot control what happens to them, but they can control how they react to things that come their way in life.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the thing that has really kind of turned my life around. You can probably hear my boys barking upstairs agreeing with me.
I was going to say, you'll probably hear mine bark in a minute in response, but there we go, yeah. So, yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, it's sort of Jim Rohn talks a lot about the set of the sail, doesn't he? Set of your sail and how you respond in.
I love that Jim quote. What's that Jim Rohn says, don't wish for the wind to blow differently, just wish for the wisdom to set a better sail. What a beautiful, eloquent, powerful saying. Yeah, no. I mean, he's a guy we miss dearly, but he left a fantastic legacy behind him, didn't he? If we could all leave a legacy like that, we'd be leaving something. That's fantastic. So, when you started out, though, it clearly took you some time to get started. And you've talked a lot about mindset. Now, there must have been, though, some sort of, shall we say, dark nights of the soul when you were thinking, is this going to work? And in those early days, how did you keep motivated? Yes, there was. I mean, I often say it did take me 6 months before I made anything, and I do remember, despite what I've just said, I do remember we're only human. We all kind of have, moments of darkness and think, oh gosh, can I really do this? And I do remember actually thinking about quitting twice. I remember particularly the second time sitting outside with a coffee and thinking, do you know what? Maybe I just can't do it. So what? It's no big deal. I tried and I failed. But I'm so glad I didn't decide to go down that path. I think it's good, in life is light and shade, and just acknowledging that doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do. And we wouldn't appreciate night if day didn't exist, for example. So to answer your question, what I did was I simply I didn't reinvent the wheel. I simply looked at what others that were in the industry that I wanted to master, what they were doing, and I cherry picked the best bits, and I kind of put them all together. And I saw a common theme, which is the common theme in any successful business, and that is building a list. I often talk about that, building a list of people. And I saw that those that were doing well actually had their own list that they marketed to, but I also saw that the majority didn't have a very good relationship with their list, and that's where I really got excited, because that's where I thought, this is an area I just know, just from how I am as a person, I just know I could do that well. So to answer your question, I stayed motivated by thinking I understand that any successful business, on or offline, is in the same business, and that business is keeping their customers happy. Now, I was quite comfortable as soon as I got customers, or at least a list, I know that I'd be able to keep them happy just because that I felt comfortable with. So all I did to stay motivated was spent about 4 or 5 months just list building. And that's really where my motivation came from, because I knew if I could build a list, I will be able to build a relationship with that list, and then once I have that relationship, I'd be able to introduce them to products that I know that they would at least be interested in. I knew not everybody would buy, and of course they wouldn't. And there's more to it than just the dollar signs. It is all about that relationship. But that's what kept me motivated, building a list and building a relationship with that list. And then when I did introduce products, gosh, things just went from $250 a day to $1,000 a day, and have continued to grow since then. So
that's fantastic. Yes,
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you.
It's just a fantastic success story, but it's fantastic that you had that confidence that that within you to sort of pull that off and carry on through those doubts. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, as we've already said, I've had the great privilege of meeting you on occasions and to partake in some of the excellent training that you give and your webinars. And on each occasion that I've listened to you or been in the audience when you've spoken, you've quoted, there's a saying that keeps coming back. It's a Brian Tracy quote. It's, all skills are learnable. Now, what particularly about that phrase resonated with you?
Well, I love your questioning, Ivan. I mean, those 4 words literally transformed my business and probably my life, to be honest with you. And again, I know that sounds a little bit corny and contrived, but it is true. All skills are learnable. Gosh, when I heard, I remember even where I was when I read it first, and I had to put the book down. It just kind of really harpooned me. And I think the reason it really affected me was because I suspect was like many people when I started, and I don't say this to endear myself. I know some may think, well, Chris, you're just saying this. I genuinely, in 2008, knew absolutely nothing about computers, technical stuff. uploading, websites, FTP, and even if any of these, for those on this call, if that's above your head, that's fine. I totally get it. I was that person. I didn't even know I was using Windows Computer. I didn't know I was using Windows XP. And again, don't worry if anyone on this call doesn't know what Windows XP is. So I was that newcomer. I really was. And what I learned from studying Brian Tracy was that all skills are learnable. There's no skill you can't learn. There's no book you can't read. There's no course you can't take. Now, I think we're all intelligent enough to know that if we were talking about setting up, I don't know, a chiropractic or company, or if we wanted to learn how to play baseball, or if we wanted to, put on some muscle at the gym, all those skills are learnable. Everything is learnable. If you want to learn a different language, it's learnable. We know it's learnable. We're intelligent enough to know that. So why should making money online be any different? It isn't. Yeah. It's just a skill that is learnable. The problem is that this is the only thing that, for whatever reason, I don't really know the answer, many think that they don't have to do anything and they'll make some money. And that's where the confusion lays. It's a business. I have never said this is quick and easy. This does take time. This is difficult at first, but then again, anything worth achieving is. Learning Spanish is. You're not going to learn Spanish within a week. You're not going to make money within a week. You could be speaking conversational Spanish within 6 months. You could be making money easily online within 6 months if you go into this realizing that all skills, of which making money online is a skill, are learnable. So there's certain things you need to learn. You will need to understand how to create a one-page website. I know it's scary. Get over it. We all have to get over it. You will have to understand how to upload something. I know it's scary. Get over it. If you are going to use, and this goes back to your first question, if you're going to use these new skills as excuses why you are not going to do it, if you're saying, oh, I can't do that, somebody else does it, do you know what? Respectfully, this business isn't for you, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. But don't use these new skills as an excuse why you can't do it, like most people do. But most people in life are like this, and we all have this tendency, we all have this element. So I often use the analogy of new food. When we're, particularly as a kid, if we're introduced to a new food, our automatic reaction is, I don't like it. That's not true. You haven't tried it. You might love it.
Absolutely, yes.
It's the same as making money online. People say, I can't make a website. Have you tried to make a website? No. I can teach people to get a very simple, and it would be a simple website, online, and more importantly, understand what they're doing within a day. And I've done it tens of thousands of times. If people enter into this business knowing that all skills are learnable. So that's why, to answer your question, Ivan, those words resonated so strongly with me.
Fantastic. It's interesting that you say that there was a sort of a key turning point in that phrase, because I sorry to digress for a minute, but I had a key turning point in my life, and it was just a throwaway comment of almost of Tony Robbins that did it.
Really? What was that? What did he say?
Well,
get out my way, Ivan.
Yeah, that's exactly. Who the hell are you? It was a phrase that I've only previously heard in negative connotations. It was about burning your boats, and whenever anybody's said that before, oh, he's burnt his boat, it's always had a negative connotation. Yet with Tony Robbins, he said, if you want to take the island, you have to burn your boats. And it was that gave me the courage to give up my day job and follow this, full time. Now, whether I was sensibly listening to Tony at that time, time will tell. But it really resonated with me, that did. If you want to take the island, you have to burn your boats. I thought, I've got to go and find some matches. And it was simple as that. But there we are. I'm digressing a little bit. So, going back to Brian, Brian Tracy, are there any of his other teachings, or for that matter, any of the other great teachers that have influenced you? And if so, in what way? And who might they have been?
I was a big fan of Peter Drucker. Who's a great he's a bit more kind of a business leader. I'm fascinated by business. I read all the time biographies of great business leaders. I've always been fascinated by businesses and business people and how they built businesses. So he's a bit more business skewed. Jim Rohn, who we mentioned earlier, is a bit more personal development, like Brian Tracy. Jim Rohn's probably my favourite orator. I just liked his manner on stage. And I remember Jim Rohn once gave a very famous speech, and I'm paraphrasing badly, but he started it by saying something like, if you don't make plans of your own, guess what? You'll probably always fit into somebody else's plans.
Yeah, that's right.
Guess what somebody else may have planned for you.
Yeah.
Everybody sort of starts laughing. And he goes on to say, you know, it's true, probably nothing. So what's going to make the difference? Then you're going to make the difference. And basically he leads up to what we alluded to earlier, which was if you... when you look at things, or if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And again, I always sometimes hesitate saying this because it's easy to spout out pretty, eloquent words, but there's often a lot of truth in them. And again, changing how we look at things. I see this in life. People are often very quick to look at people and instantly make a decision about them. Like, let's say, it was slightly off topic here, let's say somebody comes on TV and, you know, a really good-looking girl or a really good-looking guy. A lot of people automatically will suddenly think, oh, I don't like them. That's a gut reaction. And what an awful way to live in life. Everybody should be innocent until proven guilty. And I think that's quite an important thing, that when we change the way we look at things, things we look at change. And it's amazing how many relationships and friendships that people I know have with people that when they first met them, their first reaction was they didn't give them the time of day, but then they sort of changed their mindset and changed how they looked at that person, and this wonderful relationship evolved as a result.
Absolutely.
So I would say Jim Rohn.
Yeah, no, he's top man, as I say, much missed, but a wonderful fella, but there we are. Now, a lot of our members are sort of entering a transition period themselves in their lives. And while they may understand at the outset that there will be times when nothing seems to go right, and they understand that because we tell them that that's the way it'll be, it feels a whole lot worse when you're actually going through it. Now, we've already touched on the fact that in the early days of your online career, that there were some times when you had shall we say, a little bit of a wobble, but you stuck to it and you saw it through. Is there one key point of advice that you would have for our members that would help them stay motivated and all of that?
There's a lovely line I know, actually it's from the Bible. I just love the line, "This too will pass." And you know, the problems that we're having today and the issues that we're having today, they're actually going to be different next week. They really are. This too will pass, particularly when setting up a web business. I remember creating my first video course, Create Your First Website, by 3:45 this afternoon, and it was in about October 2008, and I remember creating the videos, and I just simply felt I was hitting brick walls. I remember clearly the feeling. I can picture it right now. I just sat back in my chair here, and I thought, I just genuinely, I wasn't even down about it. I just was beaten. I just actually do not know how to do this. I just don't quite know where to go, and I couldn't work out how to create this file, and I felt like all the walls closed in on me, and I remember that feeling. And then I suddenly thought, okay, do you know what? This too will pass. There is always a solution, and even if I don't know what that solution is right now, there is a solution. So I sort of picked myself up, and then I started kind of having Wayne Dyer talks about living in an abundant mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset. I started looking at things differently. I started thinking, okay, if I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. So rather than looking at this as if all the walls have closed in on me, let's look at this as an opportunity to learn. I actually don't know what to do here, so I went on forums and I asked for help, and suddenly I started meeting people that said, have you tried this, have you done this? Suddenly I was changing how I was looking at things, and things were changing for me as a result. I met a guy called Jeff Hope, who's actually become a very dear friend and now works with me every day. He's known as Jeff the Web Guy, and that came out of this kind of my darker moment. So my advice would be is that there's always a solution, even if particularly if you don't know at the time what the solution is. I get great strength from this. Even now, when things I don't know how to do, I don't get phased, I don't get stressed. I think, okay, I kind of smile to myself, all right? I think, right, this is a problem. I don't know how to fix it, but what I do know is that there is a solution. And once you know that there is a solution, even if you don't know what that solution is, it's amazing how effortlessly it becomes to find that solution, rather than kind of stressing and kicking your computer in frustration. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I mean, since I went and got my matches and burnt my boat, it's amazing the people that have come into my life who can help me. And I'm not talking sort of airy-fairy sort of law of attraction or anything like that. It's just I'm putting myself in the way of these people now, and it's because there is that shift in mindset. Whereas prior to that, other people did that, but I didn't. Well, now I do, and now I get to talk to people like you, which is fantastic. Which way back in my old self, that would never have happened. So you're absolutely right. It is. Now, talking about things going wrong, there was a quote that I saw on a forum a few weeks ago, and I can't remember. I can't credit the guy. It was just somebody who was contributing to the forum. I can't remember, but he just said that he decided that things no longer went wrong; they went unexpectedly well in a way he hadn't quite figured out yet.
That's brilliant.
That was a fantastic way of looking at things. And he said that nothing ever goes wrong for me anymore. It just goes fantastically well in a way I haven't quite figured out yet. But that's a pretty good way of looking at things.
That's
Chris,
brilliant.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us. That's been excellent. I could talk to you all evening, but I guess you're a little bit busy. But now, one last question, if I may, before you go.
Of course.
Where can people find out more about you and the excellent service you provide?
Well, you're very kind to even ask that. If anybody would like to know anything, I have a free gift and details at my site, chrisfarrell.com. My last name spelled F as in Frank, A-R-R-E-L-L, chrisfarrell.com. It's all free. And there's a little opt-in form there, so you'd have to sign up to my list and you'd get sent free information about basically how to create a successful web business. But let me say, it does take a bit of time. You're looking at least a few months, so it's not get rich quick. Then again, get rich quick doesn't exist, as you know, and those that say that are simply just trying to get to your credit card. So that's why I have free gifts here. There's absolutely nothing to sell, and if that interests you, Chris Farrell, FARRELL.com is a good place to go.
Fantastic, Chris, and I can back that up because there's all these offers that say spend $47 with us and you'll be a millionaire by next Tuesday.
Exactly.
And they don't work because I've spent it $47 enough times to find out that they don't work.
So did I.
So
did I.
Keep your money in your wallet, really. But that's great. And what I'll try and do, Chris, I'm assuming this has recorded. I hope so. And if it does, I'll put that link under the recording when we put it up for you.
You're very kind, Ivan. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks so much, Chris, and I'll stop the recording now. See, I told you it'd be worth waiting for. And what a really lovely guy Chris Farrell is. So, don't forget, if you want to find out more about Chris, head over to chrisfarrell.com. You'll see I've put his address below here. And no, that isn't an affiliate link. I just really believe there are a few key people that are worth listening to, and Chris is definitely one of them. So don't forget to check back with us soon. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye now.